In the past, I've always experimented a little bit with baking my pizza in different locations in the oven to see what the different results are. I've never really documented it though, and so that's what I'm doing right now. The last 2 days, I've made a few pies. I've kept perfect records and have taken pictures and documented everything in order to figure out how we can make the best, the most authentic New York pizza at home. So this is my setup: electric oven, a Lodge cast iron pizza pan. And so here we go. I first started by baking a pie on the bottom rack. I turned my oven up all the way, 550 degrees, which resulted in the pan on the bottom testing at 618 degrees Fahrenheit. And I know from the past I can't leave it on that pan the whole time or else it'll just get charred. So I used a crisper. So I had 3 minutes on the crisper and I took it off and baked it directly on the pan for 1.5 minutes to get that bottom crisped up a little bit. So what I also do is I'll let the pie cool down for a few minutes and then put it back on the pan to reheat it because that's what the pizzerias in New York do most of the time. And have it back on there for a minute or two gives it that little extra crisp. As you can see, the top of the rim is undercooked. It has no color to it. Yet the bottom of the pie is about right, just about perfect actually. This has been my experience every time I've cooked a pizza on the bottom rack. I think what's happening is that pan is getting heated crazy fast because just a couple inches away from that heating element, yet most of the hot air is lingering around the top of the oven. And so it's not getting down to the bottom rack to heat up the top of the pizza properly. Number two, I raised the pan up to that top rack, and also the pan was exact same degree temperature, 618 degrees Fahrenheit. And so I put this one on the crisper for 3 minutes, and then I took the crisper off and let it bake directly on the pan for 1.5 minutes. And this is the result. Pretty good color on that rim. Underneath the pie was really pretty good. And so this one also I let sit for 10 minutes and then put it back on the pan for just 1 minute. And you can see it's not as crispy as that first one. However, I could alter the times a little bit. Instead of doing 3 minutes on the crisper, I could probably next time try like 2 minutes on the crisper or 1.5 minutes and then put it on the pan for the rest of the time. I was pretty pleased with this pie overall. I want to see the bottom a little bit crispier, but everything was pretty good. For the next experiment, I turned the broiler on and I got it to a maximum temperature of 641 degrees. I baked it a little bit longer than I wanted to, mainly because I couldn't really see the top of the pie through the window on the oven because it's on the top rack. And so I don't like to see that many brown burn marks on the cheese typically. It's still acceptable. You still see those at Scars and other places in New York, but it's a little bit much for me. But you look at the color of the rim, it looks really good. Now, the problem is, well, let's see. So I put 3 minutes directly on the pan, no crisper. I knew it was going to cook faster, being so close to that broiling element, and so I didn't use a crisper. However, this is the problem. Even though it was 3 minutes with no crisper, you look at the bottom and it just didn't get charred enough. It didn't get baked enough. It's not crispy enough. It was too soft. And so this one I let cool down for 5 minutes and put it back on the pan for 1 minute, and it didn't do a whole lot. So you can see, disappointingly, there's no crisp at all to that crust. However, baking the pizza for only 3 minutes instead of 4.5 minutes made the cheese and the sauce taste better. They're more moist. The longer it's in the oven, the more they're going to get dried out. And I really, really liked how the cheese and the thin part of the crust tasted in the sauce. It just didn't have that right texture. It wasn't crispy enough. So my goal is to get the top to look like this, like I used the broiler, but I want the bottom to look like it did when I used the oven. And so for my next experiment, I got the broiler up as hot as it could go. And for some reason, it only went to 606 degrees today. And what I did was I broiled it for 2 minutes on the pan, directly on the pan. But I wanted the bottom to get crispier. So what I did was I turned the broiler off and I opened the oven door. So the heat would, from the top of the oven, would escape. So I didn't want the top of the pizza to get cooked anymore. I just wanted the bottom to get crispier. And so that was my experiment today, is 2 minutes directly on the pan, and I left it there, opened the door up, turned the broiler off, and let it sit for 2 more minutes on that pan. The results were pretty good. I wanted to get a little more crispy than that, but it was actually really good. I put it back, I let it cool down for 10 minutes, and then put it back in the oven. You can see there's a tiny bit of cracking there. I want more, but I think I'm on the right path. You're trying to get this right. You know, pizza ovens, they just operate differently than your home oven. They have air circulation patterns differently. They have different temperatures. So that's my experimentation. What I guess the main thing I learned is do not cook pizza on the bottom rack. Top rack is okay if you have to, but I think I'm going to find a better solution using the broiler. I'm going to experiment more here in the near future, and I'll keep you posted. Thank you.